I'd like to invite Alistair to come and give us our Bible reading, which will come from 1 Samuel chapter 7.
One Samuel chapter 7 verses 1 to 14. I'm reading from the New International Version. Then all the people of Israel turned back to the Lord. So Samuel said to all the Israelites, "If you are returning to the Lord with all your hearts, then rid yourselves of the foreign gods and the Ashtoreths and commit yourselves to the Lord and serve him only, and he will deliver you out of the hand of the Philistines." So the Israelites put away their Baals and Ashtoreths and served the Lord only. Then Samuel said, "Assemble all Israel at Mizpah, and I will intercede with the Lord for you." When they had assembled at Mizpah, they drew water and poured it out before the Lord. On that day they fasted, and there they confessed, "We have sinned against the Lord." Now Samuel was serving as leader of Israel at Mizpah. When the Philistines heard that Israel had assembled at Mizpah, the rulers of the Philistines came up to attack them. When the Israelites heard of it, they were afraid because of the Philistines. They said to Samuel, "Do not stop crying out to the Lord our God for us, that he may rescue us from the hand of the Philistines." Then Samuel took a suckling lamb and sacrificed it as a whole burnt offering to the Lord. And he cried out to the Lord on Israel's behalf, and the Lord answered him. While Samuel was sacrificing the burnt offering, the Philistines drew near to engage Israel in battle. But that day the Lord thundered with loud thunder against the Philistines and threw them into such a panic that they were routed before the Israelites. The men of Israel rushed out of Mizpah and pursued the Philistines, slaughtering them along the way to a point below Beth-kar. Then Samuel took a stone and set it up between Mizpah and Shen. He named it Ebenezer, saying, "Thus far the Lord has helped us." So the Philistines were subdued, and they stopped invading Israelite territory. Throughout Samuel's lifetime, the hand of the Lord was against the Philistines. The towns from Ekron to Gath that the Philistines had captured from Israel were restored to Israel, and Israel delivered the neighbouring territory from the hands of the Philistines. And there was peace between Israel and the Amorites.
There's a reason why this morning I've asked Lee to pray and then Al to read the scriptures for us. That's because these are two of our elders who, as of today, are stepping down from their role to take a sabbatical break. It's something that we've built into our constitution to reflect God's rhythm of rest, to remember that He's God and that the church will keep running without any of us. But as elders, Al and Lee have been faithful to prayer. And thank you, Lee, for that prayer. Oh, my goodness. And so they've been faithful in prayer, and they've been faithful to the word as they've served our church in this capacity of elder. And I think it's only appropriate that we take a moment to publicly and collectively express our thanks and appreciation to them for what they've done. So. And even though they won't be elders for at least this next 12 months, I'm sure that I know, because I know them, that they will be faithful in prayer and the word still for us. There's an old hymn that we sing on Sunday nights, and we've done it a couple of times in the morning, and it's got this line in it. It says, "Here I raise my Ebenezer, hither by thy help I'm come." And as you could probably imagine, when we've sung this hymn, I've had a number of people ask me, "What's an Ebenezer?" And I, being the Bible scholar that I am, have very confidently told them that's from the story of Joshua, When Joshua leads the people into the promised land, that after crossing the river Jordan, he sets up a pile of stones in remembrance, and it was called an Ebenezer. And I've said this with absolute confidence, and I have been absolutely confidently wrong. I was nearly right, because Joshua did do all those things, but it had nothing to do with Ebenezer for Joshua. So imagine my surprise then when, in preparation to talk on this story today, because this has been percolating away for me about today for a number of weeks. Imagine my surprise when I thought, you know what, I should just look it up. And I discovered it was in 1 Samuel 7. There's no sign of Joshua anywhere in this story. Which leads us to 2 points that are worth remembering. One is that even the pastor can be wrong. And the second is, this is why then you should engage in your own study of the scriptures to make sure that we're not leading you astray. Now, thankfully, I don't think that being wrong on this detail has led anyone into a heresy. But just in case, let's take some time to clear it up now. To understand what's going on in 1 Samuel chapter 7, we need to go back a bit first. As we finished our series in Genesis, we had just got up to Abraham. And as Genesis continues, we see Abraham's family grow and grow. But there's a famine in the land, and so they find their way to Egypt where there is food, and there they continue to flourish. However, because they're becoming so populous, the Pharaoh consigns them to slave labor, works them mercilessly until Moses comes along to lead them out of Egypt into and out in the Exodus. However, they grumble against God because apparently he's not done enough for them. And so that generation spends 40 years wandering in the wilderness. And in that time, God gives them instruction for the making of a tabernacle, which is like a mobile temple, if you like. And instruction for making of the Ark of the Covenant, both of which represent where God would localize his presence amongst his people. Now, eventually that generation of grumblers die, and Joshua leads the people into the promised land. And as he crosses the river Jordan, he gets the leaders of each tribe to take up a stone, and he sets them up on the other side, but nothing to do with Ebenezer, as I've learned. However, as they come into the promised land, they don't fully drive out the other nations that are inhabiting that land. And so in that time, Israel had no king, and everyone did as they saw fit. They followed the influences and pressures around them, and it was not good. And so God often sent foreign nations against them in order to turn them back to himself. And at such times, he would raise up a judge to lead them. And Samuel was one such judge, a recognized prophet of God. Now it happened that Israel rose up to fight against the Philistines, which had been one of the nations that God had brought against them. But as they fought against the Philistines, they lost. And so they thought to themselves, let's take the Ark of the Covenant into battle with us. Let's take God with us so that he can defeat our enemies. But the thing that they discover to their detriment is that God will not be used. God will not be co-opted to our agendas. And so the Philistines defeated them again, and even worse, they captured the Ark of God. However, as the Ark sat in their temple and in their midst, God's hand was against the Philistines. So much so that they decided, man, we need to get rid of this thing. We need to send this Ark back to Israel. And so it makes it as far as the town of Kiriath Jearim, and there it stays for about 20 years. And then we come to what Alistair has read for us. The people turn back to God. But while they're then worshipping together, while they're all gathered to offer sacrifice, the Philistines see a prime opportunity to attack them. But that day, the Lord thundered with loud thunder against the Philistines, and he threw them into such a panic that they were routed before the Israelites. Now God acts on behalf of his people. And in response to God doing this, in response to God's action, Samuel took a stone and he set it up between Mizpah and Shen, and he named it Ebenezer, saying, "Thus far the Lord has helped us." So what's an Ebenezer? An Ebenezer is a stone that Samuel set up to help Israel remember God's presence and his action in their midst. It's a marker of remembrance to say, this is what God has done for us. And so it's legitimate for us to say today that our annual general meeting that we're celebrating now it's an Ebenezer. When we read over the reports that have been prepared, when we listen to the things that have been shared by our staff, we can say, God has been with us in these things. That he has done more than we ourselves have done. He has acted on our behalf. Thus far, the Lord has helped us. When we consider 2024, because, our meeting isn't lined up with the calendar year, so, we just deal with that. But when we consider 2024, we had 21 baptisms. We had 6 weddings. We've already had 5 this year, so we're going to beat that because there's at least 3 more coming up. In 2024, we had Darren's appointment, first as an interim pastor and then as an ongoing pastor. Across in Albury, they started a kids' choir. Our finances, as Steve has reported, $57,000 above budget. We had 265 care packs distributed to individuals and organisations with need, plus countless meals on Thursday night. Imagine if we tried to count how many individual meals we've given out. Kerry, any thoughts? And that's not to mention the regular gatherings of connections, playgroup, youth, young adults, kids, small groups, and everything else that goes on and the impact of them. When we consider all these things, we can say with confidence, thus far, the Lord has helped us. And so here, we raise our Ebenezer. That's just a handful of the things that are recorded in our reports. But that's what an annual general meeting like this is. It's our Ebenezer stone to remember, thus far, the Lord has helped us. And we're thinking of this at this time, about it like in the life of us as a church, but you can also do the same individually, to look back on the past year and consider all the ways that God has led and provided and sustained you, the ways he has cared for, grown and changed you. And this is important for us to do, to look back in such a way, because actually an Ebenezer stone doesn't just prompt us to look back. Samuel says, thus far the Lord has helped us. And implied in this statement is, if God's done this, why wouldn't he help us on further? Implied in this statement is a confidence for the future. We see that in the rest of the passage that Al has read for us. The Philistines were subdued, the Israelites had peace, and the other towns that had been captured were restored to Israel. Ebenezer is not when God's help stops. It's merely a marker along the way to indicate just how far he has already helped us and to then give us hope as we look into the future. And so for us, as we reflect on the past year in our annual meeting, we can say, man, if God has been this faithful to us in 2024, why wouldn't he continue to be faithful in 2025? We can look back in thankfulness in order that we can look forward with anticipation. This is not for us to try to press forward, as the Israelites had done, to try to get God on board with our own agenda. It is for us to wait for him, to follow his lead, to walk in faithfulness to what he calls us to be and then to do. And our annual report for the year that was, our Ebenezer stone, then gives us the faith and the confidence to go into the future wherever and whatever it is that God leads us into. So I've asked Bob and the team if they would actually lead us in that song that got me into so much trouble. And that, in seriousness, prompted this whole reflection. So I'm going to invite you, as the band come and to stand and to sing as the song, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, recognizing that all good that we have comes to us from God, and to remember that. So let's stand and let's sing together.
Could have been worse because I thought it was one of those really large champagne bottles. There's a Nebuchadnezzar and there's a Balthazar and there's a Jeroboam, but there's no Ebenezer, so I was ready to raise my Ebenezer, I'm telling you.
Come thou fount of every blessing, tune my heart to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet, sung by flaming tongues above. Praise the mount I'm fixed upon it, mount of thy redeeming love. Here I raise my Ebenezer, hither by thine help I'm come, and I hope by thy good pleasure safely to arrive at home. Jesus sought me when a stranger, wandering from the fold of God, He to rescue me from danger interposed His precious blood. Oh, to grace how great a debtor daily I'm constrained to be. Let thy goodness like a fetter bind my wandering heart to thee. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it, prone to leave the God I love. Is my heart, Lord, take and seal it for thy courts above. All else I adore your name. Above all else, tune my heart to sing your praise. Above all else, I adore your name. Above all else, tune my heart to sing your praise. Above all else, I adore your name. Above all else, tune my heart to sing your praise. Above all else, I adore your name. Above all else, tune my heart to sing your praise. Ease my heart, Lord, take and seal